Nicole Kidman, the Australian star who once captivated all of Hollywood, has a life story whose darkest side has only recently begun to surface. With her striking beauty and exceptional talent, she quickly conquered the big screen, shining in blockbusters like Moulin Rouge and the others. But behind the spotlight, her high-profile marriage to Tom Cruise became the center of explosive rumors. In 2001, when the couple divorced, many blamed Scientology. However, the truth turned out to be far more disturbing as former members of the organization started coming forward with shocking revelations. What exactly forced Nicole to live two completely opposite lives? Watch until the end to uncover the dark truth Hollywood once tried to hide. Nicole Kidman was born in Honolulu, Hawaii in 1967. At the time, her parents were living temporarily in the United States while her father pursued his studies there. When Nicole was just 4 years old, the family returned to Sydney. That city, with its sun-soaked streets, wide schoolyards, and free-spirited atmosphere, became the place that awakened the artistic dream inside the little girl. As a teenager, while her classmates were busy thinking about test scores or weekend outings, Nicole secretly spent her time attending small auditions for local television and film roles. And surprisingly, in those narrow waiting hall corridors, she often ran into a blonde, bright-faced girl from the same school, Naomi Watts. The two would stand side by side, nervous and anxious, then burst into laughter after getting rejected. That friendship has stayed strong ever since, like a single thread woven through both of their lives. In her teen years, Kidman made the daring and risky decision to drop out of school to pursue acting full-time. It was bold, almost reckless, but she trusted her instincts completely. And magically, she was right. At 16, Kidman began landing her first roles. It seemed like her career path was finally opening up, but life never moves in a straight line. In 1984, just as her first spark of success appeared, darkness swept in. Her mother, Janelle, was diagnosed with breast cancer, a blow that shook the entire Kidman family. Nicole stopped everything. No hesitation. No dramatic tears. She walked off set, stepped away from the spotlight, and returned home. She didn't just care for her mother, she even studied massage therapy so she could personally ease her mother's pain. When her mother recovered, Nicole returned to acting, more grounded, stronger, as if tragedy had forged a new layer of steel within her. By the late 1980s, Kidman's talent began to shine brilliantly. She starred in the psychological thriller Dead Calm and immediately stunned critics. What no one expected was that the film would catch the eye of one of Hollywood's biggest stars at the time, Tom Cruise. Cruise watched Dead Calm and instantly knew he wanted Kidman for his next project, Days of Thunder. When Nicole arrived for her audition, Cruise pulled up in a Porsche, a scene straight out of a movie. And it was at that very moment that a story both beautiful and painful truly began. Kidman later admitted she fell for Cruise the very first time she met him. Their chemistry was explosive. But there was one thing that made everything complicated. Cruise was still married to Mimi Rogers. Rumors swirled that his relationship with Kidman had begun before that marriage officially ended. Soon after, Cruise divorced Rogers. Less than a year later, he married Kidman. At the time, Nicole was only 22. Far too young to fully grasp the complexities of Hollywood, fame, and the powerful forces she was about to step into. Cruise brought with him the legacy of his previous marriage, Scientology. It was a highly influential organization, shrouded in secrecy and governed by strict rules. Scientology did not like psychologists, and ironically, Kidman's father was one. Some believed the organization saw Nicole as a potential threat. Even so, Cruise and Kidman married. Cruise even showed signs of distancing himself from Scientology, at least in the early years. Kidman lived like she was inside the fairy tale she had dreamed of since childhood. But every fairy tale comes with its price. One detail few people noticed. Nicole Kidman was already 5'9", 1.75 meters at age 13, and eventually reached 5'10", 1.78 meters, making her about 10 centimeters taller than Tom Cruise. Throughout more than a decade together, she never once wore high heels on the red carpet beside him. She physically shrunk herself to protect the perfect Hollywood image. Yet Kidman's real personality was anything but small. Cruise was famous for his daredevil spirit and for performing his own stunts in Mission Impossible. Kidman was no less fearless. She once jumped out of a plane, drove at more than 200 mph, 320 km/h, and even dove underwater with sharks. Thanks to Kidman and Cruise, Days of Thunder became a massive blockbuster. The couple went on to star together in the epic Far and Away, but behind the bright lights and their promising careers, what made them happiest at the time was family. In 1992, they adopted their first daughter, Isabella Jane. 3 years later, Connor Anthony joined the family. For a while, it looked like the small family had become whole again, as if all past wounds had finally been sealed. But Hollywood is never a place where happiness stays still. As Cruise rose to become one of the biggest stars in the world, Kidman was still struggling to find roles that would elevate her to the next level. That breakthrough finally arrived with Batman Forever in 1995, the film that turned Kidman into a true A-list star. And at that moment, she began to understand that she could and must go even further. In that fateful year, a role that seemed almost destined for Kidman suddenly appeared. In the novel To Die For, the main character says that if her life were ever made into a film, the actress playing her would have to be a woman recently married to Tom Cruise. When the book was set to be adapted, Kidman saw her chance. She didn't wait for luck to come. She hunted down director Gus Van Sant's home phone number and called him directly, something almost no one dared to do in Hollywood's conservative world at the time. Kidman spoke for 40 minutes, driven by her hunger and absolute belief in that role. By the time she hung up, Van Sant was convinced. Just a few hours later, he called back to tell her, "You're my choice." The film became a turning point, launching Kidman into a new chapter. She earned a BAFTA nomination and won a Golden Globe. But when the Oscar nominations were announced, her name was absent. It was a cut she never forgot. And right when she felt most disappointed, a small note arrived. Just 3 words: "You were robbed." The sender, Sean Penn. Kidman later said that note moved her as much as an Oscar nod because it came from one of the greatest actors of his generation. Not long after, fate brought her to director Jane Campion, who had watched Kidman perform on stage when she was only 14. 15 years later, Campion offered her the role of Isabel Archer in The Portrait of a Lady. But the part turned into one of the harshest periods of Kidman's career. To embody a 19th century lady, she wore corsets that cinched her waist to just 48 centimeters every single day. The pressure, the intense filming schedule, and the demands of being a young mother pushed Kidman to exhaustion. When the movie wrapped, she completely collapsed, bedridden for 2 weeks from physical depletion and emotional strain. After recovering, Kidman returned to the screen in The Peacemaker with George Clooney. On set, they got along so well that they occasionally went dancing together. Clooney, mischievous by reputation, dared not tease her too much because he respected her talent immensely. She then joined Sandra Bullock in Practical Magic. In the iconic margarita scene with a swarm of ants, both Kidman and Bullock actually got tipsy for real, turning it into one of the funniest behind-the-scenes moments. Director Griffin Dunn later remarked that during Practical Magic, Kidman often had to redo more takes than her co-stars. He believed it was the after effect of the previous project she had just finished, a film helmed by the infamously meticulous Stanley Kubrick. Although production had wrapped, it wouldn't be released for another 2 years. That film was Eyes Wide Shut. Stanley Kubrick had told Kidman and Cruise that he wanted them as the leads in his next movie. He also warned them not to sign on to any other project until filming was done. Despite the demand, they agreed immediately. The chance to work with Kubrick was too extraordinary to pass up. What they didn't know was what awaited them. Production on Eyes Wide Shut began in November 1996 and didn't finish until June 1998. No one, not even Kubrick's closest collaborators, imagined the shoot would stretch to 400 days, long enough to earn a Guinness World Record as the longest continuous film shoot in history. Kidman recounted that most of her scenes were filmed 70-80 times. With other directors, the average was 5 to 10. Kubrick's obsession with perfection stretched the schedule to such an extreme that the personal lives of the two leads were essentially erased. They ate, slept, and even argued in the rare breaks between endless takes. At the time, reporters only heard rumors, a cast trapped in a shoot with no end in sight, and behind the closed doors of the set, an invisible crack was beginning to form in a marriage once thought unbreakable. When the film was finally completed, the challenges were far from over. The studio and Kubrick clashed fiercely over the secret ritual sequence, a scene so controversial it was revised several times before release. Meanwhile, the media shifted its attention to Cruise and Kidman's personal life. Tabloids claimed the production had hired an intimacy coach to help the couple, married in real life, deliver more convincing romantic scenes. Rumors about Cruise's private life, which had already followed him since his marriage to Mimi Rogers, now flared up again. Eventually, Cruise decided to fight back. He filed a defamation lawsuit against Star and Express newspapers. The couple won the case, and all compensation money was donated to charity. After everything, many expected Eyes Wide Shut to become a glorious turning point. But the film underperformed at the box office and was only re-evaluated and appreciated years later. Still, its release coincided with a beautiful milestone, their 10th wedding anniversary. Rumors even suggested they renewed their vows on Christmas Eve of 2000. But only weeks later, Hollywood was shaken to its core. Kidman and Cruise announced their separation. Cruise's silence fueled a wildfire of speculation. Tabloids accused Kidman of infidelity, yet she remained quiet to protect their adopted children, Isabella and Connor. When Cruise eventually spoke, he delivered one short, cutting sentence: "Nicole knows why." That single line was like a blade, opening the door to endless theories about the breakup. Just 2 days after the announcement, Cruise filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Kidman was nearly crushed. Photo shoots were canceled. Film projects delayed. Cruise continued appearing before cameras with the practiced smile of a man accustomed to the spotlight, while Kidman withdrew, struggling to breathe through the darkest days of her life. Later, another detail emerged that shocked the public even more. In California, if a marriage lasts longer than 10 years without a prenuptial agreement, divorce rights change significantly. Cruise's insistence that they had separated before the 10-year mark was believed by some to be an attempt to avoid long-term spousal support. Kidman refused to comment. She only wanted to be a mother, a real mother, and to spare Isabella and Connor from further pain. Time passed, and the unwavering support of close friends, Naomi Watts, Hugh Jackman, slowly helped her stand back up. But the tabloids did not relent. When Kidman began filming Cold Mountain, rumors exploded about an affair with Jude Law, a married man. Once again, she had to take everything to court, and once again, she won. All damages were, once more, donated to charity. When August 2001 came to a close, the marriage between Nicole Kidman and Tom Cruise officially reached its end. The two publicly maintained a calm and cordial attitude for the sake of their children, but everyone understood that beneath that still surface were fractures that could never truly be repaired. For Kidman, it was a moment so devastating she felt she could barely stand. Yet at the same time, it opened a door she had never dared to walk through before, the door to freedom. Years later, during the rise of the Me Too movement, Kidman revealed something few could have predicted. Her marriage to Cruise had actually protected her from the kind of harassment that was rampant in Hollywood at the time. She admitted that, throughout those years, Cruise acted as a kind of shield, and when the marriage fell apart, Kidman had to learn how to survive on her own, facing an industry that was anything but kind to young women. The post-divorce period forced her to grow up so quickly that even she was overwhelmed by it. But in a beautiful kind of irony, pain became the fuel that pushed her deeper into her work. Those efforts soon crystallized into her first triumph, an Oscar nomination for Moulin Rouge. The role demanded more than any description could convey. It wasn't just sacrifice, it was a physical price she paid with her own body. During filming, Kidman fractured 2 ribs, injured her knee, and had days when she had to perform from a wheelchair. Yet that painful cost opened the door to global recognition. After Moulin Rouge, she continued her ascent with the haunting thriller The Others and, especially, The Hours. Wearing a now famous prosthetic nose, Kidman transformed into someone almost unrecognizable. That makeup didn't just alter her face on screen. In real life, it allowed her to walk through streets unnoticed by paparazzi. And then came the Oscar for Best Actress, the defining moment that marked the most dramatic turning point in her career. Throughout those years, Kidman's private life also became the subject of endless speculation. She was rumored to be linked with several names, from Steve Bing to Lenny Kravitz. Kidman later admitted she had once been secretly engaged, most likely to Kravitz, but fate didn't carry them to the end of the road. It wasn't until Keith Urban entered her life that everything truly changed. They married in Sydney in 2006, seemingly beginning a peaceful new chapter. But just months later, Urban confessed he had been struggling with addiction. Instead of walking away, Kidman chose to fight for him. She organized an intervention to help her husband reclaim himself. Urban entered rehab and has remained sober ever since, a quiet promise to the woman who refused to abandon him. Kidman and Urban welcomed their first daughter, Sunday Rose, in 2008, followed by Faith Margaret in 2010 via surrogate. The couple has always upheld one important rule: never stay apart for more than a few weeks. It was a promise once tied to her previous marriage, but this time, Kidman kept it on her own terms. As a way of protecting her life, her love, and her sense of self. One of the most talked about moments of Nicole Kidman's career unfolded at the 2017 Emmy Awards. When Alexander Skarsgård, her Big Little Lies co-star, won an Emmy, Kidman leaned in and congratulated him with a kiss right on stage. It could have easily been brushed off as a friendly gesture between colleagues, but the moment became hot news because Keith Urban was standing right beside her, witnessing the whole thing. Viewers were stunned, the media erupted, and many argued that Kidman's gesture crossed professional boundaries. When Kidman later appeared on The Graham Norton Show, she gently dispelled the rumors. Smiling, she said, "I kiss my husband too," making it clear that Urban had always been her most supportive partner, someone she deeply loved and treasured. But fame and the glow of the spotlight often mask the wounds Kidman has carried quietly for years. After her high-profile marriage to Tom Cruise, tabloids repeatedly suggested Scientology was the shadow behind their breakup. Pressure rose from many directions. Kidman's father was a psychologist, a profession Scientology vehemently opposes, and she herself never felt connected to the religion. Later, revelations from within Scientology sent even more chills through the public. Marty Rathbun, a former high-ranking official, admitted that Kidman's phone had been tapped during her marriage to Cruise. The surveillance was reportedly ordered by David Miscavige, who feared Kidman's influence would push Cruise away from the organization. And when Cruise filed for divorce, Miscavige was said to be happy, believing the biggest obstacle in the actor's spiritual path had finally disappeared. Their adopted children, Connor and Isabella, grew up fully immersed in Scientology and remain devoted followers today. Over time, Rumors claimed the emotional distance between them and Kidman only grew. Some reports alleged they viewed her as a suppressive person, Scientology's term for individuals considered harmful to the organization. For many years, Kidman was never seen publicly with either child, deepening the public's sympathy for her. Still, she maintained a calm, composed attitude, consistently stating that her children had the right to make their own choices and that she respected them completely. Time seemed as if it might soften old wounds, but in 2025, Kidman faced yet another heartbreak. Her marriage to Keith Urban came to an end after many years together. The divorce papers cited irreconcilable differences, closing a chapter once considered the warmest, safest haven in her life. Even so, Nicole Kidman continues forward with her signature grace. Amid the storms of her personal life, she chooses elegance and strength, the qualities that have earned her the world's enduring respect, no matter what she has endured.